Good evening, folks. How's it going? Happy Memorial Day to you. or almost Memorial Day at least. Thanks for joining me. We got something a little different tonight. I am going to be doing a question and answer session. Good evening. Question and answer session with the folks over at the Mcat Discord. So obviously, since this is Mcat focused, which is the medical college admissions test, in case you're unfamiliar with it, it's what you have to take to get into med school, or one of the entrance tests you have to take to get into med school. Anyway, yeah, so I will be talking with them and fielding sort of an open Q&A session. All y'all in chat are welcome to pitch in, of course. Yeah, we're just kind of going to be doing that tonight, and hopefully you'll learn something. Feel free to ask whatever you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be about medicine, but this will obviously skew towards that a fair bit. So if you're interested in being a doctor, if you're interested in being an anesthesiologist, if you're just kind of curious what I do day to day, then we'll probably touch all of those topics. Or if you just want to learn more about me, I will probably be doing a fair amount of self-aggrandizement and other such chat would be my guess. So I am a total noob with Discord, so we'll see how this goes. Last time it was a touch rocky. That's alright. And the administrator from the site just contacted me. Let's do it. Let's see if we can make this work.
Hey.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's good. How are you? I don't think I can speak. Can I speak now? Nope. She's trying to unmute me. I will let her know I am muted.
You can't unmute?
Don't think so.
That's not good.
I'm trying. She's trying to figure it out, folks. Let's see how it goes.
I apologize for any noise.
You're good.
Here.
Oh yeah, she can hear me. Can you guys hear her? Can you hear her speaking? It'll be nice if y'all can hear the question, so I don't have to repeat everything.
Oh my god, everybody's here. And my host cannot talk. Oh, hello.
Push to talk voice chat?
Huh.
How about that? Is that better?
Milkman, are you able to unmute now?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you try saying something?
I'm saying stuff. Let's see. Can you hear me now?
1 second. Meridian, would you know how I can... He's unable to talk.
I'm still talking. I'm talking.
Meridian, are you able to unmute?
Alright, troubleshoot on the fly. This is why I'm early.
Wait, Meridian, are you able to like unmute and talk?
I'm still
Oh
speaking.
my gosh, not even you?
I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay.
There we go. I'm here!
Wait, how? Okay. Doctor, how are you able to go live, but we can't hear you? Like, how is that possible?
That's a fantastic question. How indeed. Let's see here. All right. Can anybody hear me at all? I'm guessing nobody can hear me. I'm trying. I'm looking stuff up. Let's see. Push to talk. Push to talk. Yeah, we'll get this figured out, right? Voice and video. Let's see. I wonder if this is on my end. Oh no, I just canceled Discord, son of a bitch. That's not what I had in mind. Whoops. Let's try this again. Still good? User setting, voice and video. We'll do 5. 5. All right, can you folks hear me now?
Yes, I was able
Yay! Fantastic. I had to fiddle with my push to talk. So I guess I'm just going to be holding the number 5 this whole session, but that's okay. That is all right.
I apologize. I don't know what is happening here with the perms. I've even enabled it so every single person can talk. So I apologize in advance.
Oh, it's all good. No worries.
Great, well everyone, welcome our anesthesiologist,
Hello.
Dr. Milkman. He's here for a Q&A. I asked that you guys stay muted. I don't even know if you have the choice to unmute at this point or not, but stay muted. Push all of your questions into info sessions. And I'm going to hand everything over to our doctor, and I will be in the chat if anything goes wrong, so let me know. But otherwise, thank you for hosting.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Okay, can everybody hear me? For the record, just to make sure. Cool, perfect. All right. So yeah, my name's Alex. You can call me Milkman, Alex, whatever. I don't care. Nice to meet you as well. So I'll give you a bit of background on myself. So I'm an anesthesiologist, for starters. I've been in private practice for about 5 years. I sort of got into medicine a little haphazardly. Like, I've always been a huge science nerd. But I didn't know if I was going to do, like, physics or, medicine or pharmacy or research or whatever. And so in college, I sort of was like, well, I guess I want to do this medicine thing. And I found out what the Mcat was about 2 months before I took it. Just was like all over the place. I didn't have a very good application and like just sort of struggled all the way through that experience, basically, the application season. My GPA was not fantastic. I want to say it was like a 32 or something. But I did sort of steamroll the Mcat just because of like basically my other background, like my background in physics, and I'm just sort of like naturally kind of good at like reading comprehension and stuff. So that was my saving grace. But that said, I applied to 28 schools, got a grand total of 1 interview at Arkansas, and I was waitlisted, and I think I was like one of the first people off the waitlist. So I went there, graduated in 2012. Yeah, 2012. I did my residency at the University of Kansas, and like I said, I've been out for about 5 years. I'm in a small independent group at a medium-sized community hospital. So yeah, that's my medicine history in short. So what were I'll just kind of start fielding questions. Good stuff. Thanks for coming out, by the way. I appreciate you guys spending the time to hang out and chat. So what were my clinical hours? Do you mean that in terms of like what my experience was before applying to med school? Okay, so I was a pharmacy tech for about 3 years, which was fantastic. It was awesome work, super useful for learning drugs. For one thing, I knew most of our pharmacology, outside of some like hospital-only medicines like chemo and anesthesia drugs, as fate would have it. But I knew the basics of all of that before I even showed up. It also was really useful for like dealing with people, because I sort of worked basically in the hood in Kansas City, and there were some slightly less than pleasant people who would come through our pharmacy, and you had to, sort of deal with that. But it was a good experience all the way around. So clinical, like in terms of numbers of hours, I mean, hundreds, was my job. And I also, I did 9 semesters of college. And so like I had, probably like 9 months before med school started, and probably about 6-ish months before I had applied anywhere. So I had 6 months of just like working more or less full time. Med school you attend is sort of, if you're wanting to just do like clinical practice, not super important in my opinion. If you're just looking to like get trained, everywhere's gonna be fine, and honestly you might even like do better at a less prestigious place because they're less focused. Usually prestige is kind of like measured by like name recognition and in particular like research funding. So if you're going somewhere that's not like super huge on research, they will focus more on clinical application, which is what I did. And that might be a better path for you. But if you're looking to go in academics, then you probably do want to aim high. And at the very least, like, get involved as early as possible and get on board with some people who are like big names in whatever, specialty you're interested in. Let's see. So how has COVID been for me? COVID actually has, this is going to be a real unpopular answer. COVID has kind of been awesome for me in a lot of ways, professionally at least. So our business dropped off pretty substantially last April, I think. But after that, basically it's been back to normal, and then like maybe even a little stronger. My hospital in particular, we made an arrangement with our group that we would put all of the central lines, arterial lines, and breathing tubes in all of the COVID patients who went to the ICU. It was just like protocol that everybody got intubated and got lines. So we were really busy doing that for a while, especially since there are some nursing homes that are near our hospital, and like both of them, or 2 of the 3 of them, just got decimated with COVID. And I think we got like 70 plus patients from just those nursing homes. So we were pretty busy with stuff outside of the OR for a while, which was fine because our OR, like the hospital canceled all of our elective cases. So our workload went down in the operating room substantially. So we had the extra time. But as far as like day-to-day practice for me goes, it really made zero difference because I wear gloves and mask all day, every day anyway, so no big deal. Let's see, good questions here. How did I land in anesthesiology? So again, I'm going to give another very unpopular answer. So we're going to keep it real here. So power, respect, income, work style, lifestyle, those are all factors in it. I like the fact that it's a very like generalist sort of specialty. Like you kind of have to know everything. You got to know a lot of internal medicine. You have to know like what's important about certain parts of surgery, because if there's a part where like your patient might crash, then you need to know like that's coming and prepare accordingly. Like I said, I like the income. It's kind of like top third-ish of doctors, maybe at that, like 60 to 70th percentile of income as a specialty. Interestingly enough, I just got the like physician compensation review email from Medscape earlier today, and we can look at that in just a second if you like. But that's a big one, and the fact that you're just kind of like in charge. Like if shit goes wrong in the OR, you're the guy, with rare exceptions. Like cardiothoracic surgeons a lot of the times are kind of like, in on it because I can't really put someone on bypass if they need it. But it's nice to like be important, I guess, for lack of a better way, and like kind of be the person who everybody calls when they need things fixed. And you're the authority on dying people, basically, which is cool. Let's see here. Okay, moving down the line. I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff. Week in the life of an anesthesiologist in private practice. My schedule is crazy. It is all over the freaking place. So like I said, we're in a small practice, so there's 7 of us taking call. So I am on call an average of Q7, but we sort of cluster it, so you just like get hammered for, a week or two, and then you don't take call for like maybe a week or two. So we do a cut system. So like basically as you're not needed anymore, you go home, and that either means you go home at like 8 a.m. or if we have a heart surgery, you go home at like 11-ish after that's done. Because we do one doc and one anesthetist for each heart surgery, so that like takes up an extra person basically. My work hours are about high 40s per week, but that includes call, and we're pretty quiet overnight, so most of the time you'll get 6 to 8 hours of sleep, so you can subtract that off the total, so mid 40s. Income, like I said, is good. Lifestyle is good. My work environment right now is fantastic. Like everybody that I work with is very cool, easy to work with. All the anesthetists are very, very safe and competent, so that makes life so much freaking better. Like when you can trust the people around you to be safe and take good care of patients. Because there are plenty of times when like, somebody's going down and you just like have to devote your attention to them, and you can't worry about the other 3 operating rooms that you're managing. You just have to depend on the people around you to fix it. Okay. Oh, never knew normal. Missing my own chat. Sorry, man. Hopefully you're still watching, but I do not have merch. And my name is Milkman because I looked at a comic called Red Meat back in the day, and there's a character named Milkman Dan. I'm MilkmanAl. What do I think the future of anesthesia looks like with respect to CRNAs? Do I expect physicians to have fewer job opportunities or more supervisory roles in the future? CRNAs are sort of constantly making a push, in case you're unaware. Hey, Luna, what's going on? Thanks for dropping by. CRNAs are, and like many other mid-levels, are making a push for independence. That is troubling for some. to me, I feel like that's never going to gain traction in a fashion that will challenge my profession. There's a lot of kind of stilted research that CRNAs in particular lean on to basically like show equivalence in practice in terms of patient outcomes. But the problem, well, one of the main problems, there's a lot of problems with the research they quote, is that they are comparing outcomes of patients at, like, having small surgeries, healthy patients having small surgeries at, like, you know, community hospitals and smaller, which is where CRNAs typically practice solo, versus you know, anesthesiologist-led care at bigger tertiary centers, you know, so people who are, like, having heart surgery and lung surgery and have, like, cancer everywhere and tons of comorbidities. So, like, yeah, of course your outcomes are going to be better. Dude, I am not trying to disparage anyone, I'm sorry. I do not mean for it to come off like that. CRNAs are fantastic. All anesthetists are crucial to the care model, the care team model. That is not the point I was trying to make at all. Every group of people has its extremists that tint the outlook on the rest of the field, and that is unfortunate. Like I said earlier, everyone I work with anesthesiologist assistants and CRNAs, and in case you're unaware, anesthesiologist assistant is like more or less the physician assistant equivalent for anesthesia. I have nothing but respect for anesthetists, and in fact, I, to be honest, probably would have gone that route myself had I known about it. Physician equivalent? Well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one. The training just frankly is not the same, and the care is also not the same. The evidence shows that as well. But that does not mean that everybody isn't very important. How much do I make a year? Well, that's a bit of a personal question, but like I said, I just got the email that tells you generally how much anesthesiologists make, and if I could use my fingers, that would be super helpful. What is going on? All right, so, oh, you guys can't see this, I'm sorry, and the push to talk thing is messing with me. So this chart that I'm looking at here, and I am going to avoid changing my screen for fear of screwing up what we fixed before this officially started. But this says that, so topping the chart on average is plastic surgery, making $526,000 a year. Bottom of the chart's pediatrics is 221, and anesthesiology on average is 378. So I will tell you that I make like basically right at the regional average, and maybe a little bit more than the local average, median. Excuse me, regional median and local median. How do I balance kids and work? It is possible. Absolutely. CRNAs make $220,000 a year. No question whatsoever that is, in my mind, that is a basically just a better all-around choice than being a physician on the lower end, quite frankly. Thanks for using Medscape and MGMA data. Yeah, well, I try to be as evidence-based as possible. That's sort of the deal. So you hear CRNA has a better lifestyle. That, in this area at least, is probably true. Your hours are more reliable, you're in very high demand. So CRNAs are in this area make about 180, 185, something like that. But your life is much more predictable, which is worth a lot. It's a good deal. It's a very, very good career path. Let's see. Oh yeah, so balancing kids and work. It's hard. That is hard. So, like I said, my schedule is very unpredictable, and my wife in particular, I'm married, I have a 4-year-old. My wife is extremely good about rolling with the punches on that. Well, thank you very much for doxing me. I appreciate that. Anyway, good thing I don't have many viewers, right? So, anyway, we'll just block that. Let's see here. I'm just gonna get my, just gonna get my address out of here, because that's super cool. We'll go ahead and ban for that. Don't post my address publicly. Yep. Yep, not cool. Whoops. Chatting is hard. Awesome. Okay, so now that my address is gone out of chat, we'll keep going. So yes, that's a great, very good question. All right, I think we're square here. You live near me? Yeah, well, it's a good place to be. Please don't pipe on me.
Hey, if people are doxing your location, feel free to DM me the name if they're in the server.
It was
them as well.
I certainly will do that. I don't know if they are or not. That was in my Twitch chat.
Understandable.
Cool. So yeah, got them nice and banned. Not that, I don't think anybody's gonna show up at my house, but anyway. We're balancing. So I was extolling the virtues of my wife before all that crap happened. She is awesome. She's very, very good to be around. And, if I tell her I'm going to be late, she's cool with it. She handles it. That doesn't mean she likes it, but she does a very, very good job of supporting me, basically. Where that's more difficult is residency. My wife is not an anesthesiologist. She's a nurse, which helps. So she kind of knows how it goes. She understands that the hours are not set, and even if they are set, they're still not set. And just sometimes, everything, hey Mop, what's up? Sometimes everything just blows up, and you just can't leave. You just can't leave the hospital. Like, if somebody's dying and in your hands, you can't just be like, well, my shift's over, sorry, gotta go. That's not how it works. So where that gets real sticky is residency. So med school is difficult. The med school is a huge adjustment from college, for sure, or, whatever you're doing before med school, because you basically just have to have a whole bunch of, dedicated study time. Yeah, man, I'm having a great night. That's hard, but it's more flexible, right? So you can, theoretically, take a break to, go on a date or whatever, go out to dinner or something. Residency, not so much. You are, for lack of a better way of putting it, you are the hospital's complete and utter bitch. You do whatever they want, whenever they tell you to, and you're there for as long as they think you need to be there. And that is really tough, especially if you have kids. I knew several people who had kids, kind of late in med school and brought young kids into residency, or they had kids in residency, and that was just a massive struggle. So yeah, it's tough, but those are things that you have to have some very very frank discussions with your partner about, and they just have to understand that that's part of life. You know, that's what they're committing to by being with you when you are going to be a physician. That's just the life that you're getting into. All right. Hey, future CRNA, thanks for this. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. Once I finish a case, do I ever hear about that patient again? Would I consider this a low malpractice risk of being an anesthesiologist? So I personally rarely see patients again. The bigger the surgery, the more likely I am to see them. So like, if somebody has heart surgery or, some like big vascular procedure or something like where I'm, invested in this case, then I will probably see them again. Otherwise, I'm kind of like, the happy-go-lucky dude that shows up and like gives you pain meds and puts you to sleep, and everybody like likes their anesthesiologist for the most part. Like even if they've had like a previous bad experience, like a lot of people are just like rampantly nauseated after anesthesia. And, you can show up and be like, yeah, we got that, no problem, we'll take care of you. And like knowing that ahead of time is a fantastic bullet in the chamber, because you can like, they've had this bad experience and you can totally take that away essentially through like use of different drugs and techniques and stuff. But you make friends very easily. That's where I'm going with this. And as far as like malpractice risk goes, the implementation of like just like check boxes has like taken anesthesia from one of the highest malpractice risks to one of the lowest. So just the fact that you can like document that you've done all of these different steps that are standard of care is like money. It's awesome. It makes your life so much easier. And these days with like electronic medical records, all of that is like down to a science. You have your like risk management department that just shows up and says, all right, you need radio boxes for all this stuff, check it all off, do it all, and you're good, right? So you can still get caught up in a lawsuit where, some bad outcome happens and they just like sue everybody involved in the case. And that happens frequently, unfortunately. But yeah, EMRs are definitely more work for the doctor. Absolutely. Yeah, than paper. 100% true. 100% true. And it's because of this thing that I'm talking about, is there's just like check boxes for everything, which, like it sucks because you have to go through all of that, but that also, keeps your ass out of a sling. Have I won any malpractice cases? Fortunately, I have not had any lodged against me. So it's kind of just a matter of time, because I think the average time and like between end of training and lawsuit is like 7 years, and I'm at 5. So I'm very close to that. Would I recommend against starting late med school in one's mid to late 30s? Sleep deprivation hits harder now than when you were 25, and the hours of residency are scaring me. The hours of residency should absolutely scare you. It's terrible. So that said, one of my best friends from residency actually did exactly that. He was a drug rep and a physical therapist before med school, and I think he started med school in his maybe even late 30s. But he made it. You get through it. It's terrible regardless of how old you are. So yeah, I mean, that's a very real concern. Like I personally worked like mid-60s hours per week during residency, and we took 24-hour calls where we basically just worked the entire time and worked hard. Like one of my friends regularly, like he had a Fitbit or something, and we would walk like 10 plus miles on call, like every time, just pacing around the hospital doing random stuff. And we'd probably get like 2 hours of sleep spread out through the night. Should you practice intubations before med school? No. I do not think so. There is plenty of time for that in residency and anesthesia rotations and all of that. So no worries there, man. You will get all the reps you could possibly handle. How is the workload different from undergrad to med school? It's, I mean, it's just more, basically. Like, they basically just throw a whole bunch of stuff at you. I think the equivalent is something like upper 20s hours, so like 27 to 30-ish hours of college. So yeah, they'll use the analogy drinking from a fire hose pretty frequently, which I got very, very tired of hearing. And it's really just sort of a matter of like organizing everything and kind of knocking it out in a fashion that works for you. Just understand that you're probably going to be spending 60 plus hours a week studying and going to class and stuff, because that's just kind of how it goes. But you'll get better at it. It's a skill that you rapidly pick up. Just sort of because you have to. Otherwise, your life will be miserable. I mean, it might be miserable anyway, but it will be less miserable. Let's see here. My name is Devani, and I attend Creighton. Excellent school. Good for you. Medicine or real estate? Which one do I recommend? Well, those are very, very different, very different careers. I bought a house that nobody wants to rent, but I'm trying. Well, why not both, right? You can own property and like have a property management group, manage all that stuff while you're in med school. Like, actually, that's so having a job during med school is basically impossible, right? There's just too much work. Being a landlord is a hobby, yeah. But yeah, if you can have something that sort of like earns you passive income like that, that will be really helpful for you. You know, it sort of depends on like how much of it you're able to farm out. Like if you are able to have a property management firm, like do, you know, all the troubleshooting and stuff for you, then great. If not, that might be a little much. Certainly there is more potential upside in real estate, right? You know, that's like the sky's the limit. You can theoretically sell like skyscrapers and stuff. And medicine is kind of like you make what you make, right? Maybe your salary increases with inflation some, but that's pretty much it. You'll make a good salary. You know, realistically, you'll be top 2 or 3% wage earner, most likely. But there's no upward mobility to speak of. So if you're really like motivated and you're just crushing it, real estate is a better financial move. Let's see here. Is it true that they give you a clicker or something, and if they buzz you, you have to come in even it's 3 a.m.? 100% true. I have a pager, and it goes off at all sorts of fun hours of the night. We have a 30-minute response time, but I choose to sleep in the hospital because most things that, you know, I would be paged for are true emergencies, and I'm pretty sure that people who are not breathing don't want to wait half an hour to get their breathing tube. So I stay in house by choice, and you know, that's kind of the whole thing. That's one of the downsides of anesthesia, is that you are always on call, and most of the calls are emergencies, and you've got to be on, whether it's 3 a.m. or, you know, 6 p.m. or whatever. I am not shift based at all. Like I said earlier, we just kind of like rotate our schedule. It's really weird, just based on like who's on call and when you were on call last and stuff. Yes, I did just say that I sleep in the hospital. Every time I'm on call, which is on average once a week, so 52 calls a year, I sleep in the hospital. Let's see. Did I develop an anxiety response to the pager going off during residency? No, but I definitely wanted to destroy it fairly often. When we were on call in residency, we had 4 pagers. Oh. And they all went off a lot. Let's see, did I buy a house in med school or rent? I rented. Rent in Little Rock was very cheap, so I rented a house, and it was like 2 miles from the hospital, super easy drive. I mean, if you can afford it, like, obviously buy a house. You know, that's just a way better investment, way better use of your money. Should someone choose the type of doctor they want to be based on how hard the residency is? That is a fantastic question. So the answer is very complicated. There are some specialties, like neurosurgery, where you can just expect that you're going to work 100-hour weeks during residency. No exaggeration. Duty hours be damned. They don't keep track of that stuff. They doctor it a lot of the time. So that aside, it's hard to know exactly how much you're going to be working at various hospitals. Like the work hour demands of residencies, even within the same specialties, are very different. Like, for example, the guy who I replaced, actually, at my current job, went to an anesthesia residency in, well, actually, I don't know where it was, and I probably shouldn't say anyway, even if I did, but anyway, he worked like 40-hour weeks by choice. Like, he got to make his own schedule, and he did like nothing, and was, kind of had mediocre training as a result. But like I said, I worked like 65-ish hour weeks, and I felt like my training was fantastic. There are other anesthesia residencies that work way more than that. Like some of the ones that I interviewed at in Chicago were telling me they have like 75+ hour weeks. And that sucks. So choosing your specialty based on how much residency sucks is not going to always be possible. In fact, usually is not possible. And I don't know that there's a big enough difference between them that would be a smart thing to do anyway, even if you could. You really want to pick something that you would be happy doing. I feel like a lot of people, throw the term like passion. Like, you have to be passionate about it. Like, that's crap. You don't have to be passionate about it. You just have to enjoy what you do enough to like do it day to day, right? Like, I like anesthesia. I think it's freaking awesome. Dr. Knopp, I certainly do. He is one of my partners. He is a fantastic guy. I am sorry to hear about the outcome for your mom, but he is a very, very good doctor. That is sad news. Where was I? Right. So, you want, like, you're going to be doing this the rest of your life, right? You're going to be working long hours, under presumably a fair amount of stress. Like, the specialty you choose will affect that for sure. But, you want to be something that, like, you don't hate yourself for choosing. Like, if you choose psychiatry because it's a, like, call is minimal or non-existent, and, like, you're not usually making, like, very stressful decisions for people or anything like that, but you hate psychiatry, don't do that. Like, it's terrible. That's a bad idea. So yeah, choose what you like. I mean, it's all gonna suck. It's the reality. The residency is just gonna suck no matter what you choose. So, pick something you like. Let's see here. What made me choose anesthesiology versus ER medicine? Great question. So I considered ER very highly, actually. And they are very similar. They're very, ER is very generalist and stuff. I chose anesthesia mostly because I didn't want to deal with people. And I also wanted to, what's a good way to say this? I didn't want people's wills to get in the way of me taking care of them, right? So I didn't want compliance to be an issue, basically, with my orders. Like, if I think somebody needs a med, I push it in their IV, right? Or if they need a procedure, I just do it because they're asleep and they need it. With ER, that's not necessarily the case. And, there's a lot of, like, people wrangling that comes with being in the emergency room, and I just wasn't interested in that. But yeah, good question, because they are very similar specialties. Let's see, how does specialty selection work? Do you get to select wherever you want to go? Yeah, pretty much. Do they choose where you go, and how does it work? Is it similar to undergrad? If you want to study microbiology, yes. Yes, you can do that. So I'm not entirely sure what you're asking there. So you can choose whatever selection or whatever specialty that you want. And how residency application works is there's a application service similar to Mcat. I'm assuming you've already applied to med school or at least kind of know what that is. But anyway, you upload all of your, personal statement and transcripts and stuff and rec letters and whatever. It's called ERAS. You upload it to ERAS and then select all the schools that you want to apply to, pay them some ungodly amount of money, and then the schools select you for interviews. You go on those interviews, and at the end of the day, you rank all of the places that you want to go, and they rank you, and they feed all that information into an algorithm, and it puts you at your residency. And that's a binding contract, so you get to move there, or you don't get your residency. So if you're wanting to do something competitive, that can be a problem, right? If you're not a super competitive applicant and you want to do plastic surgery or something, you should have a backup plan. So you don't necessarily get to call your shot on that. You can try. You can do everything that you can to bolster your application and, get good scores and grades and letters and stuff, but it's not always a given. If you're going to do neurosurgery or plastics or dermatology or something, you have to apply broadly and basically prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Let's see here. I think I missed some of my questions in chat. I'm ignoring you guys. Devani got a 505 MCAT, but told everyone you got a 526. So I'm going to look up the MCAT scores here. Hold on. Oh, God.
Hey, doctor, could you please look into your DMs really quick?
I sure can.
Thank you.
Cool. Roger that. Got it. All right. So let's see. Hello, Chris. Going to NYMC this July. Have an institutional action against me. It depends on the nature of... Would that hurt you for residency? That depends on the nature of the institutional action. Clearly, the answer is yes. But how much it will hurt you, I don't know. It will... It will at least warrant you, probably having to explain it. So I would prepare a pretty good response to, that question. Expect it. Expect to get asked about it. Expect to have to write an essay or something on your application about it. So hopefully it's nothing big, but let's see here. Is Milkman a reference to propofol? No, it is not, but it should be. Did I go into med school wanting to go into anesthesia, or did I want to do a different specialty originally? So, just coincidentally, a lot of my parents' friends are anesthesiologists, so that's what I shadowed a whole lot, and I was pretty sure that I could do that, and that I thought it was cool, but I was not set on anesthesia. I considered anesthesia, emergency, orthopedics. I thought sports medicine was really cool. What else? Was there anything else that I thought about doing? I think those were the only ones that I really seriously considered doing. So I was not set on anesthesia. I think you'll find that most people who come in with an idea of what they want to do change that idea. Because once you get some practical experience, you figure out a whole lot about what you're doing. And things change. Let's see. Do I feel like I still have the same enthusiasm from years ago? Has the reality of medicine created any regrets about your decision to go into medicine? Also a very good question. I am not certain that I really ever had this enthusiasm that you're talking about. I am a very much a work to live kind of guy. I think anesthesia is really cool. I enjoy my job. I like going to work every day. I like what I do. But dude, if I was worth $50 million, I would frickin' quit now. I would not show up to work on Tuesday. So as far as like baseline enthusiasm, I think I'm actually more into it now than I ever have been, to be honest. I feel like I'm good at my job. I can pretty much resuscitate anyone who comes through the door. And you know, I can like realistically make a big difference in people's lives, which I think is awesome. It doesn't happen very often, to be perfectly honest. Medicine is a stall. You know, a lot of the times you're just sort of like, you know, getting somebody through their surgery, right? But man, sometimes you like really, you take a very sick person and like get them back to pretty much normal. And that's happened a couple times, even in like people I knew. Like one of the nurses I work with, her mom came in with this like terrible necrotizing fasciitis infection. And like we took awesome care of her, and she is like, she should have died. She was in septic shock when she showed up. And like she's fine. She's normal now. And that's a huge win. That feels great. And just like the independence is really nice. Being able to like do what I do and not like worry about it and just like know that I'm doing a good job is a really good feeling. So I guess in a roundabout way, my enthusiasm is still there. As for the reality of medicine, when I read those words, what I think is the morbidity and the mortality that comes with this job. So that is something that you just kind of get used to, unfortunately. You see, like, especially in anesthesia, you see people die, you see people have really bad outcomes all the time. That's just how it goes. Some hurt more than others, but it's nice to know that everyone around you understands how that works, and they are there to, like, help you get through that however you need it. Like, if you need to, like, laugh it off, you know, you need to just, like, talk about it and, like, get it off your chest and, like, rehash the situation, see if there's anything you could have done better. You know, they get it. Everyone around you knows. The nurses, the techs, the other, you know, anesthesiologists, the anesthetists, they're all on the same page. So they support you 100%. It's a big team effort in the OR. Let's see. All right, how should I save money during undergrad and med school? I gamble a little too much sometimes. So first off, don't do that. That's the first way. Now, to be honest, undergrad is much easier, you know, like work for scholarships and stuff like that if you can. Maybe have a part-time job. Don't spend frivolously. Just basic stuff. Med school, you're probably stuck taking out loans, honestly. Unless you're like the earlier person with a, you know, real estate business where you have some passive income, you're not going to be able to work. But yeah, don't gamble. Shorting Doge. Whatever works. Let's see. Man, you're coming with the good questions. Did you ever have a patient that really motivated you? I would say that anybody who comes in extremis is a huge motivator for me. That's like go time. Like I can like feel myself like switch on. You know, like brain's going a million miles an hour, and you're just like, you know, I have to save this person's life. Oh God. And, you know, you just kind of like start calling shots, and, that is continually motivating. It doesn't happen all that often, but it's a good, reminder of what you do and why it's important. Have I witnessed harassment in the workplace during residency? Yes, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to get anybody in trouble or, get myself in trouble either. But yes, that exists. What is the craziest story I have in my years as an anesthesiologist? Oh man, I got lots of good ones. I got lots and lots of good ones. So I'll tell you this one from the other day. So there's a drug called neostigmine, which is a anticholinesterase, or a pseudocholinesterase inhibitor, is what it is. So basically it makes all your muscles, like, go crazy. And we used to use it to reverse paralytic before Sugamidex hit the market, which is just a 100% better drug. But if you give it unopposed, it basically makes you violently crap yourself. So we had a patient in the ICU with something called Ogilvy Syndrome, which is basically where your colon stops peristalsing. So like you can't poop, basically. So you know that things are bad if you wind up in the ICU because of your constipation. That's not a good thing. So long story short is we gave that guy neostigmine, and the results are basically what you would expect given that background. He violently shat everywhere. And, including on the nurse. And it was glorious and horrifying all at the same time. So that's a good one. Love you guys with the neck fash questions. How would I compare the critical reasoning in medicine versus physics? Do I get bored? So I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but I actually have a degree in physics and biology and chemistry because I'm insane. I would say that the sort of like conceptual learning that you learn in physics is exactly what you need to be a good doctor. Not trying to like toot my own horn or anything, but that's how you have to put stuff together to take good care of patients. It will hamper you in med school. I had a lot of problems, especially with anatomy in particular, just straight up memorizing stuff. Because I do learn like more, functional, like holistically. And just like sitting down and learning hundreds of terms and, like pointing at something and going biceps, tendon, diaphragm, blah, blah, blah. That was really difficult for me. So I had to switch gears and like basically learn a new skill for that. But once you're in the real world, the whole like understanding approach versus just straight memorization will do you a lot of good. Let's see. Candace 500 AI for anesthesia? I honestly know nothing about that. I can tell you, though, that there was, oh god, what was it called? There was some anesthesia machine that the manufacturer pushed really hard for, probably 10-ish years ago, and it was just, like, totally inferior. Basically unable to adapt to situations, and they had some, like, it would have, like, led to bad outcomes for patients, so they scrapped it. It just doesn't have the, like, critical decision-making that you need in patients who are circling the drain. And it doesn't have the response time either. Let's see. Can I talk about the importance or lack of importance of school fit or culture? Creating lists for this cycle, realized a lot of them are pretty similar. Value community-based values and such, but arguably all schools have these values. I think that school fit is of limited importance, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that that's something you can really discern ahead of time. So there are things like if a school does problem-based learning, for me, that would be like a hard pass. I just don't learn that way, and I think it's a huge waste of time for me personally to be involved in like a team learning approach, because I am an extremely efficient learner. Like, for example, I stopped going to class. Historically had always gone to class all through college and the first semester of med school. I went to class religiously. And when I stopped doing that and just started learning on my own, I was like literally 4 times as efficient. I was getting through, hour lectures in 15 minutes or less. So things like that will be important to know. But as far as like community outreach kind of things and, like whether or not a school is malignant, so to speak, like every school has community outreach. Every school has physicians who are jerks and will treat you like trash when you're a student going through. That's just kind of how it goes. That doesn't make it right, but that is how it goes. So if you want to get community involvement, then do it. I would not, basically if you're a desirable candidate, schools will try to sell you on that. I would not believe a word that they say because you can do that anywhere. If you are so motivated. So if you can get financial aid somewhere, that's a huge deal because loans suck and you're going to eat interest all through residency, basically. In residency, I didn't even make enough money to cover my interest payments, so I just forbore everything. How was the ORM-URM debate? Oh, when I was in med school? I was in Arkansas, so everybody was white, quite frankly. I don't really... I don't recall it being a big issue, to be honest. I know the school was pretty active in recruiting minority students because there just are so few in Arkansas, quite frankly. But I don't remember it being like at the forefront of anybody's, motivation to do anything. Let's see. What's my advice? Oh, sorry. What's my advice for what to do on completion of residency? Get a job. Get a job as soon as possible and make money. Make the last 7 to 11 years of your life actually worth something and pay off your bills. Celebrate the fact that you are no longer the hospital bitch. And, well, even if you are, you make 8 times as much as you did the day before. Let's see. If I could work in any other specialty, where would I work? Knowing what I know now, probably interventional cardiology, cardiothoracic surgery. Those would definitely be the top 2. Maybe sports medicine, ortho as a distant third. Oh, I missed one. Missed a question that got quoted. Let me see. What is this? Maybe a bit taboo, but do I have thoughts on what fields may be changing for the worse in the next 20 years? I think the mid-level issue is a real concern for primary care. Sitting where I sit now, I really don't understand why anybody would go into primary care, to be perfectly honest with you. The salary is really low by comparison, for the most part. I mean, you can definitely kill it sometimes doing, random stuff, but, those the general public doesn't know enough to understand the difference between a nurse practitioner and a physician. And for the vast majority of people who see primary care doctors, there probably is not a functional difference, to be honest. That is not true for people with multiple, comorbidities and, who are like genuinely sick. But like, if you show up with like a bug bite or something, which happens all the freaking time, then do you really need to see a physician for that? No. Should I just drop it and become a mid-level? I mean, it depends on what you do, man. Like I said, man, knowing what I know now, I would probably be a CRNA. The opportunity cost of being a doctor is very, very high. So, I mean, I'm happy where I am now, but, that doesn't change the fact that I might, do things differently in the past. You have $50K in loans right now? Add a 0, friend. Add a 0. Get ready. Just YOLO Doge? Yeah. Totally. Yeah, so other specialties, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of encroachment. There's no way that a nurse can do my job, quite frankly. So anesthesia is kind of weird, in that most of the time, and by most I mean like 99+% of the time, you could get somebody off the street, give them a 2-week training course, and have them do just fine. It's that 0.5% of people where you have like a healthy person having a small surgery and they try to die. That's when you need a doctor, right? That's what you need, somebody who's very highly trained and knows what the hell's going on and can fix it. Yeah, Twitch chat is 100% full of trolls right now. It's rough. Does your undergrad matter? I'm from Creighton and defaulted on my student loans. I would say yes. Undergrad does matter to some degree, as does your course of study, but not nearly as much as just playing the game and getting a good GPA matters. They'll see your university, but your scores are going to be what pops off the paper. And a lot of places have like hard cutoffs. So if you don't have like a, I don't know, just to pick a number, 3.5, they just dumpster your app, regardless of what it's in. Why do people on SDN, Reddit, and Discord obsess over top 20, 10, or 5 schools? Because they can, and if they think it means something, it doesn't. Making connections is kind of nice, but you're not realistically going to do that as a med student. You're just sort of a no-name, really, as a med student. If you work in somebody's lab for multiple years, and they get to know you, and you want to do research, then that's important. That's not something to obsess about. I went to frickin' Arkansas, right? I have an awesome job. I have like one of the best jobs in Kansas City. So if you're not like looking to master academia, then don't worry about it. Does your school prestige matter for competitive specialties? Probably more so than just generally speaking. Yes, I would say that school... Well, okay, so that's a complicated question, right? So I would say that your school's prestige in the particular specialty that you are interested in does matter a lot because of connections. So like, we'll stick with the Arkansas in this scenario, the Arkansas example. So Arkansas has a very, very strong neurosurgery program. So like most people, don't even know Arkansas is on the map, right? I live 4 hours north of it and I barely know it's on the map. But if you want to go into neurosurgery and you understand that that's a quality program and that meeting the people there will make a difference to you, and like, having a rec letter from some of these like big name surgeons will definitely help you. And even just being able to say like, I worked with this guy or these people is a big deal. It's a talking point for people in the field. Let's see. Studying. Is there anything I'd recommend to students wishing to up their study game? So the best thing that you can do is study efficiently, and to do that, in my opinion, far and away the best thing to do is do practice questions, especially in med school. Get a subscription to USMLE World and just churn out practice questions constantly. That is about as high yield as it's going to get. There are a few books that are good to read, like Golian's, I can't remember the title. It's by Edward Golian, and it's like a pathology thing that it tells you all about pathology, and in the process teaches physiology, anatomy, a little bit of micro, all that sort of stuff. It's a great book. And so you can realistically get all of the materials that you need to know the everything that I know, essentially, for $500. It's just a matter of sitting down and teaching yourself, to get through all of that in some sort of meaningful fashion. Answered a question about CRNA. Can I repeat the comment? Yeah, I was saying that you want, basically you want all hands on deck when things go wrong. Most of the time, anesthesia can be done by anyone with a short training course when things go right, but that like 0.5% is... All right. Devani, you gone. Enough of that. All right. Okay, what should I be doing this summer before I matriculate to the prestigious UAB med school? You should chill the hell out. You should enjoy your summer. You should sit around and do nothing. That's my advice. I would not try to pre-study. Don't do anything. Enjoy your freedom while you can. All right. Let's see. Can we talk about scholarships and medical aid, or an aid? It's looking at costs and it's out of this world. Absolutely. You are on the bounciest part of the student debt bubble as a med student. It's insane. So the problem with scholarships is that if you're a plebe like me, there's no way to get a scholarship really, because the competition is just monstrous. Like, some of the smartest people I've ever been around. Like, I consider myself a fairly smart guy, but I can't even hold a candle to some of these dudes. Like, they're just like walking encyclopedias, man, and like brilliant clinicians, and I just can't compete. So no scholarship for this guy. If you are looking, so basically you just have to eat the debt, which is the sad reality that we live in. That said, if you decide that you want to go into like primary care of some kind, you can often sign contracts with hospitals, especially rural hospitals, and they will forgive some or all of your debt. So that will help. And that's definitely something to like consider and call around, like cold call people. Hey, thanks for the follows, guys. Appreciate it. Good to hear anesthesiology still relatively fine for mid-level encouragement. Yeah, I agree. I think it's safe. Any specific thoughts on RADs and AI taking it over? I think that's... So I don't know a whole lot about the specifics of that because I am pretty ignorant of radiology in general. But I think that that's a real problem. Because, you're dealing with images, and that's pretty easy to, like, assign some sort of, like, algorithm to at least, like, get enough information that, like, if it flags something as like, hey, it might be this, and then it passes it on to the radiologist. Like, to use that AI as a screening tool, that will, definitely has a potential to dramatically decrease demand of radiology. Wow, an anesthesiologist, that's almost like being a doctor. Yeah, almost.
It's summer. Wherever the road calls.
Oh, man. Love you guys. Any tips, advice for people who are applying this cycle? Submitted your app and maybe you'll pre-write. So...
Shut up, you utter rubbish, mate. You're a fucking crackpot hole wanker, aren't you?
That was unique. Let's see. So, advice, stay on top of your apps. Contact schools to make sure that they know you're interested. Most places have, like, somebody who's, like, reading most of the emails that you send. So, you know, write a nice, like, erudite, well-spoken letter to these people. When you copy and paste it, please be sure to change the name of the school. Yeah, I mean, stay in contact. Like, introduce a human element to it, right? So you're not just, like, numbers and a piece of paper. What was my Mcat score? It was a 35. I don't know what that is now. Hello. Hello, Cushbites. How are you? Going back to my answer about school fit, what should I look for in terms of good schools? What ranking system can tell me about prestige and stuff? So U.S. News is probably the most commonly used for prestige. As I understand it, that is very heavily weighted in favor of research dollars. So, like, research money to the school will, like, basically give you the rank of those schools. Which, if you're looking to go into research, is great. And most people who don't know better will take those rankings as gospel, and that you can use that to your advantage. Like, if you're qualified enough to get into those schools, man, go for it. Like, it's not going to hurt you. Otherwise, it's kind of tough to tell. Like I was saying earlier, it's like it's tough to tell if a school is going to be a fit for you. Like, if they're you can get a lot of information about how they teach. You know, all of the material. Like, there's a lot of different styles. Like, there's problem-based learning, which is like you sit together in a group and talk about a scenario, which is sort of a little circle jerkish for my taste, as I mentioned. And there are schools that teach based on organ system, which is what Arkansas did. So you, like, learn all of the anatomy, physiology, you know, like everything about the heart. And then you learn everything about the lungs, and you move on. And then there are other places that teach you anatomy, and then they teach you physiology, and then they teach you microbiology. And it's just split up that way. So whatever you think is going to work best for you, choose that. Have I answered why I chose anesthesiology? Yeah, it was, that was, like, right at the very beginning. That was where this talk really got real. It's a combo of lifestyle, income, power, respect, and what you do day to day, basically. Where am I in my med journey? I am 5 years out of residency in a private practice in a, like, medium-ish community hospital. And when I look back, think of doing anything different or information I learned that I would pass on to applicants. That's a great question. I would say, make sure you work. Get a job. Get a job in a medically related field before you go into medicine. Make sure that you are okay with dealing with people and with healthcare at the same time. Because those are both very different things. And unfortunately, they have increasing interplay with each other with, you know, like, patient satisfaction scores affecting income and all of that sort of thing. So, yeah, try to get as much, like, real experience as you can. I think a lot of people place some sort of, like, fictitious value on, like, volunteerism. But, dude, if you're a volunteer, everything that you do is a bonus. Like, if you never show up again, they won't miss you. But if you have a job, like, somebody, at least to some extent, depends on you to do a prescribed task. And do it, you know, at least well enough to get by. So, that's good. That's exactly what you want. And that will help you inform your choices more than anything else would. I said earlier that I was friends with a very non-traditional student. How do you think med school was for them versus traditional students? I think for him it was much harder. He had 4 kids who at the time were probably ranged from, like, early middle school to, like, early high school. ish. And, you know, all of the things that come with being a parent. Sorry. Man, the trolls are real today. Good stuff. Right. Sorry about that, folks. I just had a whole bunch of people post my address in Twitch chat because they're jerks. Let's see here. Is it true that applying for residency really just comes down to step scores, research pubs, and letters? No. Those things all help, for sure. As I understand it, step 1 is now pass-fail. Well, I mean, it was always pass-fail, but it was scored. Now it is unscored. It's just straight pass-fail. Which means that the new step 1 will probably be step 2, because it still has a score, and you have to have some way of discerning people, right? So, like, somebody who passes step 1 with a, what is the minimum score, 183, whatever it is not, like, quite on the same level as somebody who passes with a 280. That's just kind of how it is. So research publications are helpful, more helpful if you're going to a research-heavy program. Otherwise, not a big deal. Letters are massive, especially if you're doing something competitive. Like, if you can get a leader in a field to say that you rock, that's a huge deal. Other things that are very important are clinical grades, especially, and your scores on... There are, like, specialty-specific exams for each, like, rotation. So there's, like, an internal medicine exam, and I've forgotten what they're called, but, like, surgery exam and a, like, peds exam, whatever. Scores on those are also important. How long did I study for the Mcat? About a month. So I mentioned at the beginning, I kind of just sort of like randomly waltzed into medicine, like kind of blithely just went into this whole process and didn't know what I was doing, and I applied all wrong, basically. I made my life way more difficult than it should have been. Yeah, I took a Princeton review book and just read it cover to cover multiple times over a month. And that seemed to work out pretty well, mostly because I didn't really have to study, like, half the information, basically. Because I was already good at, like, verbal reasoning, and I had a physics degree. So that put me way ahead of everybody. Now, I would basically recommend practice questions. I think Kaplan has a very, very good source for practice questions, and I would just hammer those. Hey, Cameron Scripter, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Do I personally think I work too much? Do I have any thoughts in the work-life balance with regards to the work that I do as a doctor? I don't think I personally work too much. My call burden is pretty high. Most specialties are not on call every 7 days. Especially not 24-hour call. That said, my call is generally pretty chill. I usually sleep most of the night. Typically get called like once or twice to do like a labor epidural, which is like a 20-minute procedure, so no big deal. The unpredictable schedule sort of sucks, but I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I work like upper 40s hours per week. It's really not that bad, including call. Other people are not so lucky, but my personal job is fine. What do you recommend for perpetually sleepy people? Sleep. Do letters of recommendations from top schools matter more than low-tier schools? Letters from... So generalizing a school as top tier versus low tier is not a good trap to fall in, because like I mentioned earlier with Arkansas and neurosurgery, there are places that most people wouldn't give a second look to that are actually like leaders in the field. So it's more about the program in particular. So if like any letter of recommendation that's strong is strong, right? But if you can get a direct letter from, a field pioneer or something, obviously that's going to be awesome for you. Let's see, what games do I play during my free time? In other words, what do you do in my time away from work? So you're looking at it. This is really fun for me. So I play mostly action RPGs, but also I'm kind of into some indie games. Like mostly right now I play Path of Exile. Last Epoch is an indie ARPG that is awesome. It's a lot of fun. I exercise a lot, or at least I try to. And then I always have. I mean, you can't tell by looking at me, but that I do. And also play with my kid. Play with my kid as much as I can. You feel like I'm a bit of a genius? I don't know about that. I've made it to my end game, but I don't know that I would call myself a genius. Thoughts on how important volunteering or free clinic work is for residencies? Not important at all. I don't think that was even a question, quite frankly. If you want to volunteer, go for it. But if you're doing it to like get a leg up or something, then don't waste your time. You're much better off doing pretty much anything else, studying or relaxing or exercising or whatever. Do I experience imposter syndrome? How am I able to feel confident in what I do? So short answer, no. I've always been a very confident person. And residency training, at least in anesthesia, is such that, like, even if you're not confident in what you're doing, somebody just says, hey, go do this. And you don't have a choice. So you just, like, your first central line in an awake patient, they're just like, all right, go, let me know when you're done. Or, hey, that person's dying, they need this. Like, oh, you don't know how to do it? Well, figure it out. So basically, you just, like, so I'm gonna, talk myself up a second here. So I did a talk about anxiety probably about a month ago at this time. It's in my YouTube channel. I am proud of that. I think it went very well. So if you're interested in like how I personally cope with anxiety, I recommend that you watch that. It's about an hour long. But the long story short is just like exposure therapy. You just like get thrown into these like freaking train wreck situations over and over and over. And after a while, it's just second nature. And you have to be confident because if like as an anesthesiologist, because if you aren't, everyone else in the room knows that. So you have to be able to show up and start calling shots and directing traffic and telling people like, who needs to go do what. And like, if you're not doing that, you're not taking very good care of your patients, quite frankly. Any advice on relationships during med school or residency? Yes. Work hard at them. It will be very challenging for you and for your partner because you're going to work really long hours. You're going to be very stressed out. You're going to be poor as shit. And it's hard for everyone involved. So be gracious and be patient. Realize that they have needs as well, and just like keep communication open because it'll be really tough to get through if you don't. Hey, Coach Bites, thanks for stopping by, man. Good luck with the Mcat. Aquarius, same. Cheers. Appreciate you guys coming out. I hope you enjoyed it. What was my undergrad GPA? Mine was like 3.2 or something. Getting a physics degree was not a smart call for that, for my GPA. You don't really want a degree where passing is good. I played that game all wrong. Do I have any general thoughts for people who want to get into medicine and don't have the highest GPA? So, yes. Now, in retrospect, I have lots of thoughts on that. So, as I understand it, now it's been a while since I've been in this game, but as I gather it, a lot of DO programs consider grade replacement. So if you like did poorly in a class, you can retake it and use the highest grade. So that can greatly help your GPA. if you're just sort of like, like take my 3.2, right? If I just was like a B student across the board, that's a little bit harder to argue. But since like people can look at my transcript and be like, oh, well, he's got A's in everything except for these physics classes that he has C's in. So I was like, physics is really hard, guys. And that makes a little bit more sense, but still, like, it gets your application.
You should have been to a Caribbean right now because you're so dumb.
That was cool. Anyway, yeah, so that's a tough hole to dig out of, but don't discount DO programs. They're, down the line, nobody cares. You're still a doctor, right? And these days, they are essentially equivalent in terms of residency selection in most places that I am aware of. So don't feel like that will handicap you. It's a great option. Getting a 35 after a month of studying, reading prep books sounds like a genius. I don't know, man. Like I said, physics degree goes a long way. How does the residency process work for IM subspecialties like cards? So, my thoughts on Doge. Don't buy something that has no use. That's my thoughts on Doge. So you do not have to get into an incredible program. I would say most, like, tertiary hospitals have some sort of, competitive internal medicine fellowship, right? Like KU, for instance, where I went, has, like, interventional cardiology. Even though, like, most people wouldn't even, like, put Kansas on the list, right? So, clearly, like, the better you do and the more name recognition you have, the better off you are. But no, you don't have to do that. You just have to be good at what you do. Like, be conscientious, struggle to improve, and everybody around you will see that, and you will get awesome rec letters. And you'll find that the higher you climb in the ladder, the more people know each other. I know tons of anesthesiologists around town just because of, like, having been here. Like, I don't go to any functions. I don't, like, really go out of my way to meet anybody, but there's just so few of us that you are familiar with everyone, pretty much. So interventional cardiology, or just cardiology in general, will be the same way. So if you get one of your staff to write you a good rec, then that's gonna matter, big time. Do I think MD versus DO matters in this day and age? So yes, but not much, I guess, is the short answer. There is a ton of inertia in medical education, right? So you're still going to run into some old guard who think that a DO is an inferior degree. And that obviously will work against you. That said, functionally, like, the guy who I would consider the best and most skilled guy in my practice is a DO. Like, he did a cardiothoracic anesthesiology fellowship, and he is a badass. And he did it at Houston Heart, Texas Heart. That's what I'm looking for, which is like one of the busiest heart institutions in the country. So he just, like, crushes it, man. He's awesome. So, like, functionally, the difference is zero. It might hurt you if you're trying to get a high-powered academic residency. Anesthesiologists have the best rupture? Okay, I don't even know what that means. Do I have any... Oh my god. Okay. Do I have an experience on MD MBAs? How useful can they be? So that's more of a... So if you want to run your practice, or if you want to be an administrator, an MD MBA will be very, very useful to you. Speaking from personal experience, I have zero business acumen whatsoever. So I hire that out at every opportunity. It would be very... I've considered getting an MBA on my own, like, just kind of doing it online. I guess it'd be like an informal MBA because I don't really want to pay anybody for it. But just to get that knowledge and like understand market trends and like let's be real here, you make a lot of money, right? This is a good, like very high paying career path, and it's important that you know what to do with it. So I now that I have money to invest, I'm finding myself just basically at a loss for like how to do so. Fortunately, I have a financial advisor who has done pretty well for us, so we just kind of stick with him. But I'm the kind of person who just like wants to know everything. Like, so I've been trying to read up on like econ and basic investment strategies and market trends and things like that. But I just like I don't have the background, and so I think an MBA would be very helpful for you. And like I said, it sort of opens doors, in terms of like practice management and the hospital management. MD, MPH, same deal, basically the same thing. I think an MBA would probably be more useful unless you're like really interested in like public outreach and like community programs and stuff like that. Then the MPH would probably serve you better. If you name dropped your school, can I tell thoughts on prestige or not? I don't really know anything about Buffalo personally. Sorry. I am not sure how well it's respected or known. I'm not sure what it's good at, quite frankly. But, again, nobody knows anything about Arkansas. And that's, here I am. Any thoughts on MD, PhD? So I don't feel like I have delved deep enough into the research world to give you a truly useful opinion on that. So it seems to me from the outsider's perspective that if you want to do research, you can do so with an MD only, not a PhD, and do it at a similar level. That is entirely possible that that's an ignorant opinion. Or it is an ignorant opinion, right? And it's possible that it's an incorrect opinion. But the benefits of an MD PhD is that you get paid to go to med school. Your med school is free. It takes 3 more years, or at least 3 more years. But you get a stipend instead of paying tuition the whole time. And if you're really dedicated to doing research and stuff, that can be, a big boost. Like, because presumably if you do an MD PhD, you want to be like highly academic. And in that world, any clout that you can have is well worth it. But if you're just wanting to like go somewhere and do some research and, do your thing, like you can probably just do that with an MD. Follow up on this. Oh, let's see. So if someone doesn't naturally work well under pressure, is anesthesia something they could adapt to, or would you recommend avoiding it? So it's definitely learned. I mean, you're not born knowing how to save somebody's life as they're like rapidly, actively dying, right? So that's a learned skill for sure, and something that you will train into. Certainly it helps to like be calm under fire from the get-go, but I know some pretty skittish people who are perfectly safe, competent, excellent anesthesiologists, So that's what residency is all about. It's just like smashing you into submission and getting you to where you can safely take care of patients, and that shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, thank you for following up. I like chat's moving fast and I'm looking at 2 different screens. All right, let's see here. What did I miss? I declined guaranteed with your Mcat DO program. I mean, that sort of sucks. It's nice to be like, in for sure. But, if it's in a place, like a lot of DO programs are kind of in weird places, it seems like. So if it's, location isn't a huge deal, but you do want to like be able to go and do stuff during your like time off, right? Hey, what's up, Twitch chat? How's it going? Do I think clinical exercise physiology is good clinical work? for post-undergrad. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's great. That's going to be really physiology heavy. Again, it's like very like interpersonal, you know, it's intensive like social interaction from a like, you know, like a worker customer standpoint, which ultimately is really kind of what medicine is. It's a service industry. So yes, I think that will be fantastic. That will be a very useful experience for you. Have I considered taking medication during my time in med school residency for stress and anxiety? What was the thought process like? Very loosely. I honestly don't really have too many issues with anxiety, to be perfectly frank. I would say that most people in my residency did, though. I'm pretty good at like leaving work at work, and so like when I come home, it's just like I'm good. That is not entirely true. That's not 100%, you know, foolproof, but for the most part, I didn't really have any issues with that. Probably the worst thing that I can think of for me personally was when I had to do a grand rounds, and I'm like, when it comes to like presentations, I'm a like pathologic perfectionist. I probably put like 80 hours into this 1 hour talk, which during residency is a freaking ton of free time to pour into something like that. I mean, that was essentially like all of my free time for, you know, probably like 3 weeks. So that sucked. But yeah, as far as like, you know, medicating for that, no. I probably, in retrospect, probably should have had like some counseling. Should have had somebody that I could just like talk to. Yeah, I never really reached the point where I needed to be medicated or felt like I did. The second MBA, if you don't get into an MBA program, could you do the MBA separately? Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, you could just, you know, take the, is it the GRE that you have to take for the MBA? Yeah, just take the GRE and apply separately. You'll probably have to do that, like, realistically, probably after residency. Like, you might be able to do that during med school, but I sort of doubt it. It probably they wouldn't be able to, like, accommodate your schedule, your med school schedule well enough to, you know, for you to actually get through that. Oh yeah, and as far as the medication thing, I'll refer you again to my talk on anxiety that I did that's on my YouTube channel. I really feel like that's a strong insight into my experiences. So the first 2 years of med school are your standard pen and pencil college environment, and the other 2 are hands-on to explore different fields. More or less, yeah. So most places will get you some, like, they call them standardized patients. So they're basically like actors who teach you how to like do an exam or do a history or something. So you have to like go in and ask them like, you know, super awkward questions or like probe their butthole or something to make sure that you know how to do those things before they unleash you. And they'll give you like, you know, little tasks where you like go and show up to a patient room and like, you know, like a real patient. You have to go do like a history and a physical on them. Like, I think for my first year, that was, like, one of our final exam kind of things, is, like, do a history and physical on somebody and write, like, a clinical note about your findings. And so they
George Rutabanga calling from the African Republic, and you are under arrest because you are a bad person.
Okay. Moving on. Yeah, so they try to kind of ease you into it, but there's really not any easing into it, quite frankly. Like, you sort of get a general idea of what you're supposed to do, and then you just get thrown in deep end once third year starts. But yeah, generally speaking, the first 2 years are didactic, and second 2 years are clinical. My fourth year, in particular, was just a joke, dude. Sorry, my nose is, like, really itching for some reason. I structured it so that, I basically had most of the year off. Like, I had 2 required rotations, and I basically scheduled all of my interviews during those rotations, so I missed most of them because I didn't want to do them. It was like geriatrics and a rural family practice, and I was like, I want to have nothing to do with either of these. So that's where all the interviews went. And, but yeah, so the 4th year is honestly sort of a sham. It's like you got a couple months to like do elective rotations, like most likely in the fields that you want to explore, or set on doing at that point. And then after that, it's just all like trash, in my opinion. But you still get to pay full price for it, which is great. Oh, Dersetius, no problem, man. I'm glad to be here. This is fun for me, too. More schools are moving to the 1.5-year clinical. Yeah, I think that's true. Realistically, if you have all the tools and stuff that you need, like I was saying, you could pretty well get all of the materials that you want for easily under $1,000. That'll help you, learn everything you need to know. So if the school provides you with those things, then 1 year is plenty. If they just, hand it to you and say, you need to know all of this, just know all of it, then, that's fine. A year is plenty. You take a gap year for MBA school while in or right before med school. Ah, gotcha. That makes sense. For the MD MBA. Let's see. Getting to my advanced electives in undergrad, what would I suggest? Let's see. We've got biostatistics, genomics, genetic engineering. Oh, goodness. Math of bio, computational biology, virology. So when you say most useful, I'm assuming you mean that in context of most useful for succeeding in med school. And I will answer accordingly. So I think medical microbiology is the clear standout here, first off. And then probably biostatistics, actually, would probably be the next. And then I'll give you a third choice, too, in case you don't like either of those. Probably metabolic pathways would be a pretty close third, actually. I think that'd probably be pretty useful to you. Those are all good choices, though. None of those will be wasted. What do I think of privatized healthcare? Well, I think it's... what's a good way to put this? I think it's the only way that realistically physicians are going to get paid a competitive wage that is commensurate with how much training and effort we put into our careers. So to flesh that out a little bit, Medicaid, God, my nose is killing me, man. Medicaid pays about 1/6, roughly, of what most private payers do. And that is and Medicare is not much more. So that alone is basically what ensures that all hospitals have to subsidize most of their programs. I know we get a fair subsidy from our hospital. That's, as I recall, it's close to 20-something% of our actual revenue. And that's actually pretty low. A lot of places take more than that. Hey, chicken, have a good night. Thank you for coming. So, yeah, I mean, it's clearly, introducing capitalism into healthcare has caused a lot of problems. Frickin' skyrocketing costs, and you have this, vicious cycle of, pharmaceutical companies and hospitals and insurance companies all, raising prices, and it just, goes around and around and around, and, you end up paying $7,000 for a liter of fluid or something. But if the government is going to continue to crack down on reimbursement the way they have, you're not going to have a whole lot of people going into medicine, frankly. There's a bad future in that regard, given the costs, both opportunity and financially, that go into having a career in medicine. let's see. We're geared to, oh yeah, regarding those classes. Hypothetically, do I think an M3 and M4 could be adjusted to spread the workload of M3 out and make M4 less useless? I feel like I got a pretty good idea for most of the specialties that I did in third year. That said, there, in my opinion, should be a little bit more allowance for surgical subspecialties, or just like subspecialties in general. Like we had 1 month where we did a week of each, so our surgery rotation was 3 months. We did 2 like individual months, and then our third month was a week of each urology, ENT, anesthesia, and ortho, ENT, urology, anesthesia, yeah. And that was just like a joke, because you were only there for like 4 or 5 days. Nobody gave a crap what you did. You were just, you know, like as a med student, you're honestly sort of like a, you know, a dingleberry anyway, but like you were very obviously useless to them during those weeks. And as such, you didn't really learn a whole lot, and you weren't given a whole lot of opportunities to like, you know, get involved. So it might be nice to like expand those things. And like same thing for medicine, like, you know, give us at least like 2 weeks of GI, 2 weeks of cardiology, right? 2 weeks of, I don't know, like rheumatology, you know, so you actually know like what you're getting into. And, you know, ditto the surgical subspecialties. 2 weeks of each of those things would be nice. So I guess the short answer is yes, you could do that without infringing too much on residency applications. I think residency interviews generally start in like mid-October, if I'm recalling that right. So you've still got a couple months to get in elective rotations. So, you know, if you if you were to expand those medical and surgical subspecialty like exposures, then you should still be fine. That would probably take an extra like month, maybe 2, which I guess would be what, July and August. So then you'd have 2 months of, or at least 1 month to have an elective rotation.
Then everything will be spread to your whole family.
Man, you guys are swift on the banhammer. I love it. That is quality moderation right there. I love it. Very good. All right, what else we got here? Yeah, well done, Santa. Santa's wielding the banhammer, man. That's, you know, you effed up. You're getting coal. Banhammer speedrun. Heck yeah. Good stuff. I like it. Finish your prereqs and do a fun subject with the extra course time. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, I think people place a little bit too much importance on, like, trying to gear up for med school. Like, dude, just let it hit you. Like, realistically, nothing that you do is going to prepare you well. It's just, it's so different from college. And like everybody else is gonna get, you know, like bitch slapped with that workload too. So just roll with it. Expect it to be bad. Gear up, you know, like mentally gear up for that sort of workload. But as far as like doing practice reps, I think your time is much better spent just like clearing your mind and hanging out, enjoying your time. Biocomputing is cool as balls, but you won't need it unless you want to do it later on. Yeah. So when I say I got a physics degree, I actually had an astrophysics degree. Not exactly the most medically relevant thing. It's super. It is very cool, but it's basically worthless to my career. What else you guys got? Good crowd, man. How many people came out to this? What, like 15-ish, 20? Pretty cool. Hope you guys are enjoying this, getting something out of it. And please don't hesitate to ask anything. oddly specific question. Do I think hyperbaric medicine is a lot of pseudoscience? So here's the thing about hyperbaric medicine. So I have been a part of that very infrequently. But basically the people who would benefit from it are the ones who can't tolerate it. And I'll explain what I mean. So, hyperbaric medicine requires you, so that it's basically, for people who are like not perfusing their tissues, and presumably their organs adequately, for those of you who are unaware. And that means that, there's some like massive problem with oxygenation, whether it's like, a toxicity thing, like you took in a bunch of arsenic, or, you were just like wildly septic and like can't, your oh boy, anesthesia brain is turned off right now. Like basically your oxygen supply to your cells is, bad, not adequate. So those are the people, and like being in a hyperbaric chamber requires you to be like very isolated, right? Because they have to like seal it off and, to like change the pressure. People who are, have like some sort of oxygenation deficit can't be unmonitored. They can't be isolated like that. Certainly not for a long time. So it's very difficult to like find a patient for whom that is a good option, basically. Like, because again, most people who would benefit from it need more like intensive hands-on care than being in a hyperbaric chamber allows. But yeah, I mean, there is good evidence that it works. Just the practical application is very dodgy. And I think that's actually something that you'll find pretty often, is that you're going to have to learn a whole bunch of like sort of academic stuff that is like, that's like technically true, but clinically kind of irrelevant. Like there's a lot of stuff in anesthesia with like, so like when you're asleep for anesthesia, you're kept asleep with a gas, which is usually sevoflurane, just because it's easy to make and popular and not that expensive. But anyway, there's all of these like weird equations and like things to know about, circumstances that cause it to like last longer or onset quicker, or its concentration in your lungs changes, concentration in your blood changes. In clinical practice, all of that is just crap. It really makes zero difference. But you still have to know it all for tests, and that's sort of med school in a nutshell. Like, you'll learn a whole bunch about all of these weird, like, like buzzword conditions and stuff. Like, you learn Campylobacter causes Guillain-Barré syndrome. Like, yes, yes, it does, but that's like extremely rare. You just kind of have to learn it because that's how they test you. So, welcome to the world of constantly being tested. Constantly. Alright, y'all, what else? I'm open. I got no time limits here. I'm enjoying my weekend. Spent most of the day yesterday smoking a pork shoulder, and I'm very full of leftover barbecue and beans. So maybe being physically in this room is not the safest thing. So you guys are interacting with me in the best possible way. When you finish undergrad, med school, and residency, is your standard learning 1,000 processes grind over? Standard learning 1,000. Yes. Short answer, yes. I think all specialties require a board certification of some kind, and that varies all the way from, I have no idea what DYEL means, by the way. Like, internal medicine is like a single, like multiple choice test, whereas anesthesia now is, let's see. So I was the first year that the written test split into two. So it's two 250 question, or it's either 200 or 250 question tests. Can't remember. And historically there was an oral test. Now that is an oral test and a like standardized patient test. So there are 4 freaking exams, all of which require, well, so the written exams, are in like a Prometric center, but the other 2, the like in-person exams, the oral exam and the standardized patient exam, you have to fly to Raleigh, North Carolina to do at your own expense. I mean, granted, it's like tax deductible, but still, you got to cough up like $2,500 each time you want to do that, which is ridiculous. And it's an obvious money grab. Yeah, for the most part, like learning all the like weird minutia and stuff is done. Unless you're an academic and you feel like you want to study those things, then you can make it not over. But if you're just going to be a clinician, then you're fine. How did I manage studying for shelf exams? Shelf exams! That's the term I was trying to get to earlier. Thank you. How did I manage studying for shelf exams on top of being on site for long periods of time? The short answer is practice questions. I think USMLE World has practice questions for shelf exams as well as for step 1 and 2 and all the other stuff. So my method may not work for you. My method was I skipped all of the lectures for my internal medicine rotation. Just like straight up skipped them. I went to a couple and they were like mostly talking about practice questions, and I was like, well, screw this. Like these guys get through like 10 practice questions in an hour. I can do 60. so I went home and did that on my own, and just used that time more productively. And barring that, the unfortunate answer is that time has to come from somewhere. So that either comes out of your your relaxation time or even your sleep. Sometimes like personal well-being and performance in med school are very delicately balanced. Ditto residency. So you just kind of like have to gut it sometimes. Yeah, I know that's not the answer you're looking for. But yeah, unfortunately, like when crunch time rolls around, man, like you gotta study. Especially if you feel like you're struggling. Like you gotta get that information in somehow. How would I rate Enki? I don't know what that is. I'm specifically having the same problem you were having with gross anatomy. Let me look it up. All right, I have heard of Enki. It's so basically the like study aid thing. I don't know anything about it, unfortunately. I have heard of it. I've heard it's very effective. But I just don't know enough about it to give you a good rec one way or another. So my method for anatomy was spend all the time that I possibly can in the anatomy lab. So basically I was trying to like force fit it to my method of understanding things as much as I could, and to like show up and like actually see how like all the muscles attach, and like which blood vessels go where, and like which nerves go where, and all of that stuff. Like, actually like looking at it was very helpful for me. It made it make a lot more sense than just like sitting there and trying to like beat words into my head. But there, no matter how you slice it, there's going to be a fair bit of that, of word beating. But yeah, I thought the lab was fantastic. A really good tool for figuring that out. And I actually had a guy that I studied with. I'm like fervently against group studying. Like I usually hate that with a passion. It just does not work for me most of the time. But for anatomy, it was very helpful. Like basically we just like quiz each other and go, all the way through everything as much as we could. Yeah. That was definitely the hardest thing for me to learn. Because everything else I felt like I could relate and like stick it in this framework of understanding that I had already. But anatomy is just like this weird like puzzle that you just kind of have to force fit into everything else. And it never really like clicked super well. I actually use a lot of anatomy now with like nerve blocks. But it's pretty basic and it's all very like specific, you know. I don't have to learn like entire, you know, anatomical organ systems and stuff. It's just like, hey, here's the ultrasound. Look, there's the brachial plexus. I'm gonna stick it with a needle and hopefully numb it. Or there's the femoral nerve. I'm gonna numb that. Yeah, man, anatomy was a real challenge for me. One thing that I found very helpful was Rowan's Atlas, and I'll show you what it is actually. So yeah, shameless plug for Rowan's Atlas. So Grant's Atlas, I believe, was written by the guy who taught anatomy at Arkansas, who unfortunately since has passed from pancreatic cancer. But yeah, Patrick Tank. It may not be him anymore because I think he died probably almost 10 years ago now. But yeah, so that was good for us because we knew like a lot of questions would be coming directly from that. But yeah, for like understanding things and like seeing where all the like various structures run and stuff, Rowan's was really nice. It's also really good for creeping out toddlers, which is what I use it for these days. Yeah, so Grant is a good tool for sure. I like Grant. Yeah, there aren't like to sort of reiterate on an earlier point I made. There are not a whole lot of like things like resources that you need to do well in med school. Like USMLE World is absolutely indispensable in my opinion. I would like that. I mean, it's 100% worth picking up from day one. Golion, maybe not till second year, depending on your program. Like, if you do one of the accelerated things, then get it right away. I mean, I guess it's not going to hurt you to get it right away, but it might just not be, like... it might be more information that you need at first. But those two resources in particular will carry you very, very, very far. And then first aid is just good for, like, quick hitter kind of stuff. Like, the main sort of, like, talking points. So those three things are probably what I would buy immediately upon starting med school if I were to do it again. That'll probably cost you like $400, I think. Ah, God. I keep slipping and typing 5s everywhere, because that's the push-to-talk hotkey I chose. I don't have a lot of 5s to delete. Alright, y'all, what else you got? By the way, you don't have to scramble to ask questions. You are more than likely to DM me anytime, or like come on stream and ask me whatever you like. Please don't post my freaking address in my stream, even though I only have like 7 viewers. Don't be a jerk. But yeah, you're welcome to DM me anything that you want, and I will respond as promptly as possible. Twitch name, I will type it in. Assuming that's okay. There you go. Yep, that's it. That's me. And my YouTube is MilkmanAl without the one. YouTube/MilkmanAl. I am a god-awful video editor, but I have like edited a couple of the like medical talk things. Jazzy Azzy, What's up? How's it going? Yeah, I have my, I think I have all of my social media stuff linked in my Discord. So if you want easy access to it, that's probably the best way to do it. Yeah, so one of the reasons I actually started streaming probably about, I don't know, 4 months ago. I guess it was like late January. Just as a hobby, because I know absolutely nothing about digital media, and Discord is sort of like a new frontier for me. So yeah, I'm terrible at it, and it makes me feel really old. So if I have something that doesn't make any sense, or I tell you something wrong, it's because I'm functionally 70 years old. Please don't hate me. But yeah, this is just kind of like something fun to do for me. And my stream is mostly like gaming stuff, but I really like talking about medical things with it too, because like nobody else does this. Like the only even like remotely medical stream that I know about is Healthy Gamer GG. And he does like all psychiatry stuff. So he's not going to tell you about like people violently crapping their ICU rooms or like weird OR stories and stuff. Which I've got plenty of. Yoga Nindra? Let's see, his name is, it's Dr. K. I've forgotten what that stands for. But yeah, his stream is fantastic. I'm not trying to take anything away from it. He's very, very high quality information, very interesting. But it's, you know, he just doesn't quite deal with the ludicrous crap that I see day in and day out. Hello, Kanoja. There you go. Yeah. How many med schools did I apply to? 28. I applied to 28 schools. I got one interview, and I got waitlisted. And I got in off the waitlist on my mom's birthday, oddly enough, May 15th. I think we sort of like covered this in piecemeal earlier. The institution that you go to matters to an extent. Less so if you're like just wanting to be like a clinician. Like if you're just straight wanting to do clinical practice, then it's not a huge deal, in my opinion. If you're wanting to do research and or go into academics, then it makes a bigger difference, because you will, at like higher powered, quote, more prestigious institutions, you will meet more people who matter in those fields, generally speaking. That is not anywhere close to universally true, but that's just kind of the easiest way to look at it. Excuse me. So, yeah, no problem, of course. Happy to answer any questions. And also take that answer with a grain of salt too, because I never had any desire whatsoever to go into research. So that route to me is like still sort of a bit of a mystery. I just never bothered to learn much about it because I knew it wasn't for me. I did a little bit of research and I was like, this is terrible. I'm not doing it. So, more power to you if that's what you want to do, but it is not my thing. Why would anyone want to do academia after they finish their MD? Well, I don't have a good answer for you on that. I don't know if it's a power thing or what, but generally speaking, the pay is worse, the hours are worse, the demands are greater. You have to do lectures and presentations and stuff. I have never done that in 5 years, and I will never do that in 5 years of in the future in private practice, because nobody cares. If you want to do that, they will, sort of fund it. As long as it's good for the group, they will fund that in some respect, right? They will pay for your conference expenses and things like that, and they'll present it to the hospital and be like, hey, look at us, we have this guy who's participates in the cardiac anesthesia conferences, isn't that awesome? We're super qualified, please give us more money. But or like the one guy in my group who is essentially like our group manager, more or less. Like we're all equivalent, but he's the one who deals with all the administrative stuff. So he goes to the practice management meeting every year, and the group pays for that. But yeah, as for why you would specifically want to do all those things professionally, man, that's beyond me. Your goal is to be the Norm Macdonald of doctors, smart but play it dumb and annoy the hell out of everyone with an ego. Dude, welcome to my life, brother. That's where I live. That is my wheelhouse. Oh man, that's kind of the life of anesthesia, right? Is like you show up and, you know, piss on somebody's parade. They want to put on a, you know, some elective surgery for somebody who's like crazy sick, and you say, hell no, we won't go, and they get mad. And you just have to sort of live with that. But yeah, that's you will, I think if you genuinely do that, you will find yourself running out of ammo very quickly, because there are plenty of egos to go around in med school. Or in medicine in general. Med school for sure, but medicine in general. Yeah, that's always a challenge. The like personal interaction thing. Some people are a little on the pushy side and don't really understand what they're pushing for sometimes. Would it be cool to be a med school professor and do private practice? If you like teaching, yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. So I work, where I work, we have an anesthesiologist assistant school that rotates through there. Like, I think we're one of the primary, sites that they go through. I like it. I like teaching, like, as convenient to me. So private practice is very heavily, like, production based. So, you know, you have to, like, we work really fast. Like, my group in particular, our productivity is like, it's like 85th percentile nationally. Like, we work real hard. And, you know, sometimes that doesn't really allow me to, like, sit in the room and teach. But I try to make an effort to, like, if we have a good case or something, or like something weird happens that's, you know, like a good talking point, I make a concerted effort to, like, circle back around to that, whether it's, you know, that day is preferable, but later is fine. Like, as long as it gets talked about, you know, especially with anesthesia, because, like, if you see weird zebra stuff, like, that's dangerous, it's really important that you discuss, like, how to handle that. Got somebody to ban in my Twitch chat, hold on. Much better. But yeah, I personally actually really like teaching. Do you manage a lot of CR days, or are you more often directly involved in cases? So that has evolved for me over the past couple of years. I would say in the past 2 years we've been mostly fully staffed, and we changed how we staffed our surgery center that we go to, which is actually, like, physically attached to the hospital we work at. So I used to do my own cases much more frequently, which I kind of enjoy, honestly. But now, for the most part, it's like almost exclusively care team model, like management. We are sort of weird in that we do, all the physicians do all of the OB. So that actually kind of sucks for our call, because that's the vast majority of what we get called for overnight. You know, like I said earlier, it's only like, we usually only get like 1 or 2 calls a night, so it's not that big of a deal, but 0 would be way better than 2. So yeah, the not so long-winded answer to that is I mostly manage cases. And for the most part, we do a bunch of, like, bread and butter stuff. Like, there's, you know, urology, like cystos and kidney stones, and then, like, hernia repairs and total joints and things like that. For a community hospital, we are actually, like, we do some pretty high acuity cases. Like, we've got a sort of like slow heart program. We do about 150 hearts a year, 150 to 180. We do some backs. Like, we have a neurosurgeon who's kind of like partially retired, and then another guy who's like medium busy. So we do some kind of like, 3 to 5 level backs, which is, they're medium-sized cases. And we do very little pediatrics, and most of it is just like healthy ENT stuff. So yeah, I mean, the vast majority of our practice is bread and butter, but we do get occasionally like, total like frickin' train wreck disaster people coming through the like vascular and heart programs. Plus the hospital is like literally right next to I-35, and it's we get some like pretty bad car wreck stuff. Granted, a lot of that doesn't make it to the OR, so I'd say a fair percentage of those people are not surgical candidates for one reason or another. Does anesthesia worry a lot about litigations, or does our group have that stuff covered? I think you'll find that most of the time, regardless of specialty, your malpractice coverage is understood to be a benefit. Like, that's something that's covered by either your group or the hospital, just because everybody has to have it. That is not true if you're an independent practitioner, like if you're a 1099 employee, like a contractor, essentially. But yes, my group does cover my malpractice, which as I recall, is very expensive. Like, I don't want to spit you a number, but I want to say it's more than 20 grand per year. Dab. Hell yeah. Yeah, so, as to whether or not we worry about it, yes. Litigation is a constant threat. We have a very good lawyer, like one of the best healthcare lawyers in the region, as I understand it. There's always a certain amount of ass covering that goes on in medicine, like regardless of what specialty you do, and we do probably more of it than most people. Like I was talking about earlier, we had all of these like check boxes and radio buttons and stuff that we have to hit on your EMR, and that's all legal, pencil pusher, bean counter kind of stuff. That, if somebody does decide to sue us, we can say, hey, we checked this box, we must have done that. And it just makes it that much harder for people to like poke holes in your case and, make you look stupid. But that said, like, the vast majority of healthcare litigation is like settled out of court. So, you might get deposed or something, but you're probably not going to have to like go through the stress of actually being on trial, because your insurance company just doesn't want to mess with that. I'm looking at your little Squidward dab emoji. That's hilarious. It's like getting funnier as I look at it more. Do I find myself spending a lot of time doing charts? So yes, but I don't usually notice it unless I forget about it for a long time and have to catch up. Like, usually it's something that you can sort of like take care of on the go. But yes, our EMR is like iPad based, and so I will find myself like, hammering buttons on my iPad pretty frequently as I'm like walking down the hall or like standing there watching somebody get their anesthesia induced. But yeah, dude, if I like forget to sign people out or something and I have to do like 8 sign outs at the same time, it takes like freaking 20 minutes to get all that paperwork done. It sucks. But if it keeps me from getting sued, then I'm pretty okay with it in the long run. But yeah, so the answer is yes, but it's usually spread out throughout the day. And I don't feel like we do that much more paperwork now. The hospital converted to that EMR like maybe a year after I got there, And the paperwork that we did on the paper chart was probably roughly comparable. I mean, maybe we do a little bit more now, but it's also a lot easier to do because you can like import templates and things like that have all of your selections checked and whatnot. It's just a matter of remembering to do it. And money is good, and you don't get paid for things you don't document, so that's obviously pretty important to remember. More anesthesiology horror stories? Okay. So 2 come to mind initially. One is a big part of the reason that I will never ever drive a motorcycle. So we had a gentleman come in. This was during my absolute worst call of residency, like 100% worst call. I ran my ass off for 24 straight hours, and it was actually with my friend that I mentioned, the guy who was, I think now he's like in his mid-40s, and also lives like 2 blocks from me. And since you all know my address now, yeah, you know where that is. Anyway, to make this a digestible story, basically this guy got in a motorcycle wreck. His wife, because of somebody else's fault. Like, he was on the highway and somebody merged into him. He was sober, he was like out on a ride with a bunch of his friends, and a car merged into him and he wrecked. His wife died at the scene, and he came in with his leg literally ripped off. Like, it looked like some heinous, like, torture porn film thing where there's like muscles and nerves and blood vessels just like hanging around and like flopping, and there was like gravel and dirt and oil and all sorts of stuff in the wound, and he was just in the ER just screaming bloody murder, and he ended up having a brain bleed, and so we took him into the OR emergently to drain the brain bleed and fix his leg. So we had this like weird double like drape tent thing set up. and this was at like 2 a.m, of course. And that was one of 3 concurrent neurosurgical emergencies that we had at that exact same time. So, yeah, welcome to anesthesia residency. That shit happens more often than I would care to recall. That was really bad. And one that was sort of like comically bad was this woman who had like 50 plus abdominal surgeries. So if you're new to the surgery game, your innards scar the same way that anything else does. So like, if you get a bad cut or something, it scars. So surgery is in every sense a bad cut, right? So when you have that many surgeries, you get lots and lots and lots and lots of scar tissue built up, that they usually refer to as adhesions. This lady's intestines were essentially just like a ball of scar tissue. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, the surgeon couldn't tell, like, where anything was. Like, he had to just, like, free stuff up and, like, at some point he ended up, like, actually, like, cutting through her bowel and, like, causing this huge injury that he had to fix, and then I think he, like, ruptured her bowel again, and it was really bad. And through all of this, like, of course this lady is, like, massively obese in a very, very difficult IV stick. Like, she had a port that somehow failed working during the middle of the case, so we had no IV access. I'm working with, like, the biggest jerk in the hospital, basically, like, who's just a massive, like, old-school ball-buster. And, like, I can't get IV access, and this lady, like, she's kind of declining. I'm trying to get an arterial line in her, couldn't do that. So, like, basically, I have no way of taking care of this lady, and she was, like, getting more difficult to ventilate. I'm like, please help me. He comes in and is just, like, riding me, just crushing me for the rest of the day. And so, like, finally we get, like, and, like, we couldn't get better access to her because, like, the surgeon had to, like, position himself real weird because of, like, how her intestines were. And, he was, like, trying to fix whatever he screwed up. And, like, it was just a complete nightmare. Like, we couldn't get any IV access. And even he, like, he was breaking my balls, but, like, he couldn't do it either. He couldn't get an IV in her. Yeah, she was, like, her condition was deteriorating. We had no way to resuscitate her. And, that was miserable. And then, the fun part about it was, after that day, like, this was like an 8-hour case. This was the only case that I had in this room, so I'm like suffering all freaking day in this room with this guy who's just like murdering me. And we had journal club at his house at the end of the day, and he just tore me a new one the whole time while you were there. And that, my friends, is residency in a nutshell, right there. So I will never forget that case, man. And that was like the end of my senior year. Like, I was doing everything right. You know, I was trying to like do the best I could. I just could not do anything, and that guy was just punishing me, man. Just punishing me the whole time. What else? What's some good ones? So not me. I did not do this. But so as I mentioned earlier, neostigmine is like the ultra fiber of the anesthesia world. We had a urologist who was like very unpleasant to work with. We'll say that. And one of the residents got sick of him, and like while the urologist was kind of like in setting up, the resident pushed neostigmine, and he got a face full of anesthesia humor. The patient just like blew up on him. It was fantastic. Legendary stories, man. That's fine. I am more than happy to do this, man. Anytime. Twitch link for people who want to continue having a conversation. I absolutely do. I believe it is linked above, but I will give you that link here in just a second. It's also linked in my Discord profile. Oh, beat me to it. Hey, thank you guys. Thank everybody for coming out. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with y'all. It was fun. It's a good time for me. I'll stay on stream for a little bit if anybody has more questions. Yeah, thank you guys for setting this up on such a quick turnaround. I'm very surprised that you trusted me enough to do this. No problem. I really hope you guys got something out of it. I hope that was enjoyable for you. And again, you can DM me anytime. You know, like or contact me live during stream. I'm usually on like 8 to 10 p.m. Central-ish, like this time. So, cheers. You guys rock. Great questions, by the way. Everybody asked really good questions, with the exception of the douchebags posting my address in my Twitch chat, because that's stupid. But anyway, you guys were really good. Very insightful questions. I appreciate it. Cool, guys. Thank you. Cheers, everybody. Have a great night. All right, and that's that, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If anybody's watching and you have any topics that you want me to cover in the future, medically speaking, please speak up. Let me know. I am down to cover anything from, you know, pre-med info to try to get a neurosurgeon. Wink, wink. Hey, what am I, chopped liver? Come on. Anyway, yeah, I will cover anything from you know, pre-med stuff to like advanced topics in anesthesia. And if there's something that I don't know about, I am not too proud to look it up live on stream. More than happy to do that and learn together. So yeah, that was good. That was fun. All right. Well, if nobody has any more questions, I think I'm going to call it a night. Because I was a little drunk last night, and I need to recover. Because toddlers do not allow for any breaks, as it turns out. So thank you, everyone, for the follows. I know that I was not quite as reactive to your support as I maybe normally would be, but I definitely do appreciate you coming out and supporting the channel. This VOD will be on Twitch and on my YouTube channel. I multi-stream, so yeah, check that out. youtube.com/MilkmanAl. Again, I appreciate everybody coming out and asking good questions, giving a shit. Somewhat taking it seriously, most of you. But yeah, I am out. Have a great rest of your Memorial Day weekend. Happy Memorial Day. Hopefully it's fantastic for you. Thank you again for coming out. Cheers. Oh shoot, I just saw Hillfather raided. Well, I appreciate that, man, but I am signing off for the night, so you know what? We're gonna throw it to somebody else. That is fantastic, dude. You're the bomb. Thank you for raiding. Who else can we go support on this fine Memorial Day weekend? I am just going to bed. Yo, yo! You guys are awesome. Let's see. Hoop Daddy's on. Spider's on. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, yeah. No problem, dude. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Well, I hope it helped. I don't think I said anything that was, factually wrong. I don't think. But, in any event, yeah, you have a nice night, too, man. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Alright, let's go see what... League of Legends, huh? Move it Monday. No, we're not doing any turtle action here. So, I don't know Hidakiri Ryu, so let's go see him. I have to figure out how to spell that. Hidakiri Ryu. Okay. Boom. Let's do it. Alright. Thank you all for the support. I greatly appreciate it. Raid now. Let's do it. Boom.
Hey, what's going on, Milkman?
Hey, man. What's going on?
Thanks for the raid. I appreciate it.